night, everyone. First of all, it's amazing that we've crossed 100 nights and that we're here at Kuva Mandir for night 102. It's really been a tremendous experience. You can ask anyone that's been following along. But even more than that, Kuva Mandir was the first place where Gurudev gave discourses in Trinidad, when Gurudev first came so long ago. And I didn't know that until a little earlier today. I won't tell you my expression when I found out that I would be doing satsang also, but it's such a great honor and privilege and really special that not just Gurudev, but the work of Gurudev is able to continue in the same place where he began on these Twin Islands. So very special. And tonight, so every night we see a different name of Gurudev, one of the 108 names. And we'll chant them, but you'll see that the name that falls on tonight, it's not an accident that we are in this temple. But that's going to come, right? So little teaser for you. So we'll chant now. Om Samabuddhaye Namaha.
Om Samabuddhaye Namaha.
Om Satchidanandaya Namaha.
Om Satchidanandaya Namaha.
Om Sarvahita Chintakaya Namaha.
Om Sarvahita Chintakaya Namaha.
Om Satya Sankalpaya Namaha.
Om Satya Sankalpaya Namaha.
Om Santushtaya Namaha.
Om Santushtaya Namaha.
Om Sadhave Namaha.
Om Sadhave Namaha.
Om Sumanase Namaha.
Om Sumanase Namaha.
Om Suhride Namaha.
Om Suhride Namaha.
Om Swayam Jyotishe Namaha.
Om Swayam Jyotishe Namaha.
Om Swayam Jyotishe Namaha.
Om Swayam Jyotishe Namaha.
So this means salutations to Swayam Jyotishe Namaha, one who can read his own patra. Just joking. No, that's not. That's a joke. But the name actually means salutations to one who is self-effulgent, shines all by himself. And this name is very interesting because all of the names of Gurudev highlight what's known as two different aspects. One is the personal aspect. So when you see these Mahatmas, they all look different. So Gurudev had a very long beard. If you see Sri Ramana Maharshi, he didn't have a long beard. So if you were to say, oh, salutations to the one with nice beard, it would only apply to maybe Gurudev, because that was his outer form. Or some things in different Mahatmas, they'll like different things also, outside. But then, another aspect of these names are the supreme transcendental truth that all great spiritual traditions are pointing to. This name is one of those names. It points to some quality that's beyond what we can just perceive with our senses. So this name means one who shines all by himself, self-effulgent one. In our Shastras, it actually says that the Guru is not something physical. It's not a physical person. Guru is a teaching principle that's present throughout this entire universe. So you can see in our life how many things we learn from all the time. And it's not necessarily just your teacher who points at something on the blackboard. It's certain things that we learn just by living our life. And this truth also is reflected in the natural world also. So you can see, if you look at the sun, you can learn the principle of warmth. If you see the trees, you learn the principle of patience. From the mountains, you can see steadiness. From rain, you can learn about nourishment, what it is to nourish. All these qualities are there. But that physical form of the Guru, that Mahatma is one who has erased all traces of doubt, ignorance, mistaken notions from their own heart. And what's left when that happens? Not anything new, but what was already there, but was hidden. So they say the Guru can't even give you anything new. See, when it's Christmas for some kids, they get a new pair of shoes, or they get a shiny bike. That's something they never had before, so they're really excited. But the Guru can only tell you about the hidden wealth that you have inside yourself. It's like if you're crying and saying, I'm poor, I can't buy anything. And then Guru comes and says, in your pocket, you have a check for $1 million. The Guru didn't give you anything. It was right there in your pocket. But without the Guru, you would have been crying for your whole life. So when we say that Gurudev is the self-effulgent one, he shines with the light of Paramatma, that light which is present in all things and is present in us also. And if we're here studying the Gita tonight all together, all of us, it's because Gurudev is shining in every aspect of our time together. He's shining as the knowledge in Gita, as that supreme knowledge given in Gita. He shines as the knowledge that's present in the teacher. He shines as the strength to speak that the teacher has. He shines as the listening capacity in the student. And you can hear the right thing, but whether it clicks in your brain is a whole other thing entirely. So Guru, that Bhagavan, is also that ability for us to understand what we've heard. So Gurudev is present in that as well. He's not just the founder of Chinmaya Mission, or we should say inspiration of Chinmaya Mission, and that's why he came so many years ago, and now in his honor we're having this. That's also true. But more importantly, he's that aspect of the Supreme Self that is trying to help us find our way back to our self. Guru becomes like a mirror. He shows us who we are. That's why it's only one light that shines. In that Natatra Suryo Bhanti na Chandra Tarakam, that says the light of the sun, the moon, the stars is only a reflection of that supreme light. That supreme light is the Guru, who takes different forms. He takes form as nature, he takes form as situations in our life, he takes form as physical Guru. And that light alone has brought us all to this place, to this night. So very wonderful name of Gurudev. Wonderful, wonderful name to have tonight. Okay. So now we'll sing in honor of Guru. Aao Gurudev, darshan dijo.
Aao Gurudev, darshan dijo.
Aao Gurudev, darshan dijo.
Aao Gurudev, darshan dijo.
तुम हो जगत के दाता, तुम हो Bole Shri Satgurunath Maharaj ki Jai. Okay. So now we're coming to Gita, chapter 18. Quick recap. We've been seeing that there are different aspects of action which all have sattva, rajas and tamas within them. And so we saw the general rule of thumb is sattvic qualities involve having a good balance between rajas and tamas. Because rajas and tamas are not good or bad. But if you don't have them in the right balance, then you get into trouble. Just like sattva is, before I say that, sattva is quality of intelligence or balance. Rajas is activity, a lot of energy, activity. And then tamas is that inertia or dullness. So if sattva is a good balance, rajas is maybe too much activity, and tamas is dullness. So you can think of it like Goldilocks and the three bears. So one bowl of porridge was too cold. So tamas is too dull. One bowl of porridge was too hot. So rajas is too hot. And one bowl of porridge was just right. So sattva is the correct balance between these aspects, rajas and tamas. It's that logic, that intelligence factor, which helps bring that balance. So we're seeing these three qualities in different aspects of action. So we saw what is sattvic karma. Sattvic karma is when you do what's right without expecting anything in return. Do you want to expect anyone to give you a big pat on the back, or, sometimes they do skywriting when people want to get married, the will you marry me in skywriting. So thank you, Mr. So-and-so, for helping us with this program. So we shouldn't expect anything like that. That sattvic doer, he doesn't expect anything. Then you have the rajasic doer. That rajasic action, karma. That action is one which is always done in expectation of something. So I'm doing this for you as long as you give me what I expect or want. So kama ipsuna, it says. And that rajasic action is also done with a lot of ahankar, a lot of pride, ego. I'm doing this. I'm the best. So people, they put up a building. One day you come and you hammer in one nail, and every time you bring someone there, you say, I hammered that nail. See, not all the other ones, that one right there, that one I did. Maybe you put your name underneath. Everybody else would have done so much, and they're doing it quietly, but you want to tell everybody what you did. So that rajasic action has this ahankar. And it's bahula yasam. That means you use either a lot of energy, too much energy, or you do too much show also. Some people, they have a prayers, and it's more about how much they can show off than the prayers. So why? That's rajasic action. See, prayers are supposed to be good, but when you do it with the wrong attitude, then it becomes rajasic. We should remember, it's not what we do, but how we do it. There was a nice story that President Kennedy, he visited the space station. And when he visited the space station, he was saying hello to everyone. So he met all the astronauts, the scientists, and they all shook his hand, and they had a nice time. Then, as he was finishing up his tour, he saw a man who was sweeping, he was mopping. And he asked that, he shook his hand, he said, what's your name? And man responded. And then he said, what are you doing? And the man said, well, Mr. Kennedy, President Kennedy, I'm doing what everybody else here is doing. I'm putting a man on the moon. So, even though that action might seem small to us, because he has that feeling that, hey, I'm contributing to everybody's collective effort to make this thing happen, even that action becomes so noble. And then there are some people who do the most outwardly noble things, but because they're so egotistical or arrogant, you don't even feel to tell them anything because they're not doing it for the right reasons. So even the smallest thing is very sattvic if we do it with the right bhav, right attitude. So that's given. And then tamasic karma is when the person does a lot of things, but it's all mistaken. They just have that dullness makes them do things without understanding why they're doing what they're doing. So they make a lot of mistakes. Okay, and then we saw what was sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic karta, the doer. So we saw that the sattvic doer, he never talks about himself. He only does what's the right thing to do. He doesn't expect anything. He doesn't do for any praise. And whether he outwardly succeeds or whether he outwardly fails, it doesn't bother him. Why? Because he's doing it simply because it's dharma. So, I do well at my job. If you fire me or give me a raise, I don't mind because I'm doing it because it's my job to do it. Not because you're going to give me a raise or not because you're going to give me any praise or anything, or because I'm afraid that you'll fire me if I don't do my job. Okay? And the rajasic doer is one who is karma phala prepsuhu. That means they're always looking for some result. Money, or what is this going to get me? Right? Even if they come to a meditation camp, they want to know, okay, so on a scale of 1 to 10, how much is my meditation going to improve? They're going to go from 5 to 6, 5 to 7. If I take 2 classes, will it go from 5 to 8? So they always want to know what they're going to get. And this is a nice phrase. They're always harsha shoka anvitaha. One moment they're very happy, next moment they're sad. Why? Because they're always expecting something, right? So when they get something, they're happy. If they don't get it, they're upset. Or maybe they get it and then suddenly they can lose interest in it. So you get the iPhone 5, you're very excited. Okay, you've been waiting, saving your money. And then 6 months later, they come out with iPhone 6. And that thing does the same thing as iPhone 5, but now it comes in another color, and you really want it. Now this iPhone 5, it's like trash to you. That iPhone 6 now comes in purple, or whatever, rose color now. So I'm going to save up my money to get that. So happy, sad. Or, you're wearing this nice red shirt and you really like it and, you think you look very fancy, very happy. Then one person tell you, that shirt makes you look a little like Santa Claus. You're never going to wear it again. So, harsha shoka anvitaha. Very nice phrases are given. And that tamasic karta is ayuktaha. He doesn't really have his things together. He's always very, what's called, volatile. There are some people, Guruji says this, that even when they're excited and happy, you're a little scared of them. Because you don't know what they're going to do just because they're excited. They might go and break up all things and, they have people who have violent delights, I think it says I think that's a phrase from Shakespeare or something. So even when they're happy, you're a little scared of them, let alone when they're upset. And many times they'll get upset with you and you don't know why. Some people thinking, my wife is like that. Don't think like that, right? What I mean is, sometimes they'll get very upset or they'll be very happy and there's no rhyme or reason to it, okay? Because it's not based on logic. See, some people quarrel for nothing, especially if you watch these reality TV programs. A lot of those kind of people now. Anyway, that's a whole 108 nights by itself. But we can now go to our current topic, which Bhagavan says is looking at Sattvic, Rajasic, and Tamasic, Buddhi, and Dhriti. But we haven't chanted that verse yet, so we'll do it now. Verse 29, chapter 18. Buddhir bhedam dhritischaiva Gunattastrividham shृणु Prochamanam asheshena Pritakttvena dhananjaya Pritakttvena dhananjaya So Bhagavan says, Shrinu, you now listen to this difference between what? Buddhi and Dhriti. Now, Buddhi means understanding. And before, Bhagavan gave Sattvic, Rajasic, and Tamasic aspects of Jnana, knowledge. So what's the difference between knowledge and understanding? Why did Bhagavan give them both here? Now, it's given that the difference is, Jnana is some knowledge that we have. Buddhi, Jnana, Buddhi is the understanding of that knowledge, how we apply it. A lot of us know things and we don't apply them. So I know vegetables are good for my health, but I don't apply it on a day-to-day basis. You say, yes, 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 that's good, and you still eat your macaroni pie. Because why? It's knowledge, it's not in your buddhi. It's not firmly cemented there. So, this difference now has been explained, and Bhagavan is also going to explain Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic, Dhriti. Dhriti means fortitude, perseverance, that quality in us that makes us stick on to something and continue with it. But first we'll go to Buddhi. So we'll see verse 30 now. Pravrittim cha nivrittim cha Karya karye bhaya bhaye Bandham moksham cha ya veti Buddhissa partha sattviki Buddhissa partha sattviki So Bhagavan says that sattvic buddhi, that balanced understanding, knows the balance between a number of things. First thing that's given is pravritti and nivritti. Pravritti means knowing what is worth pursuing, what is worth doing, and nivritti means what is worth stepping back from, withdrawing from. Means knowing when to do and when not to do. So you have to know when is it time to work and when is it time to take rest. So everyone who's in college knows that when it comes time to study, you know, okay, I'm going to study for 1 hour and then I'm going to take 10 minutes break. But what happens? You study for 10 minutes and you take 1 hour break. Why? Because your pravritti and nivritti is backwards. You don't realize what to do and what to stop doing. We can't stop ourselves from taking a break, and we can't start ourselves in studying. But Sattvic Buddhi knows when that's supposed to happen. Or even, we have to know when to work and when to retire also. Some people, they work and work and work until they're ready to drop. But in our Shastras it says, after our Grahastha stage, when we come to Vanaprastha stage, we're supposed to give up the workaday business world and start focusing on our inner development, on our spiritual development. Most people wait until Yamraj is knocking on the door to suddenly start singing a lot of bhajans. Not going to help that time. You have to plan in advance. They say, look, if you put away retirement savings, you should also start putting away your retirement devotion to God. Do a little bit every day so that you'll have some when it's time to retire. Now, so this pravritti and nivritti. The other thing is, again, sometimes people take the opposite to the extreme. So you have to know when to eat and when not to eat. What to eat, what not to eat. So you can take have a little bit of chocolate, a little bit of something sweet, but don't have too much. But some people take nivritti to the extreme. Some people take pravritti, they'll eat way too much. Some people will also take nivritti to the extreme. So they won't eat anything, so they'll starve themselves. Why? Some mix up in understanding. But sattvic person knows that sattvic understanding is one that recognizes that everything has its place. Fun has its place and work has its place. So you work during your 8 to 5 and then you have recreation time. Just don't mix them up in the wrong place. So that's there. And they also know karya and akarya. Karya means you know what are your duties in life, and akarya means you know what you're not supposed to do. So if you have children, you have certain duties to your children, certain duties towards your work, towards your community. And it's given here, you should also know how to prioritize. So some people, even though they're doing work for the community, they'll do it overboard and they won't take care of things at home. But our shastras say, your family you have a duty to them, an obligation to them. Don't abandon your family to prioritize your work over them. Always know to have a balance. That karya-akarya balance should always be there. Oh, and then you should also have this difference between, they know the difference between bhaya and abhaya. Bhayam is fear, abhayam is fearlessness. Very interestingly, it's given that sattvic buddhi knows when to be scared and what to be scared of. Most of the time, we don't know what to be scared of. Most of the time, we're not scared of the action, we're only afraid of its consequence. So I don't mind smoking, I'm not afraid of smoking, I'm not afraid of drinking, but I'm very scared of getting lung cancer and I'm very afraid of getting liver problem. When I'm doing it, I'm not worried. I'm only worried about the consequence. So my bhaya and abhaya is backwards. Sattvic person knows, sattvic buddhi knows, I should be afraid of smoking. Because if I'm afraid of smoking, I won't do it, and then I don't have to deal with lung cancer. So they know bhaya and abhaya, when to do, when not to do. This is very good because it means that we shouldn't be afraid of just getting caught. Most of the time, we're only afraid of getting caught. We don't mind doing something wrong. We just don't want anyone to find out. That's wrong. We have to be very aware of what bhaya and abhaya is. And it's given that the root, the sattvic buddhi also knows what is the root of fear. Fear comes from, given, raga, desire. Why? Because anytime you desire something, you're always afraid. You're afraid, am I going to get it? Once I get it, am I going to lose it? So, you really want a car, new BMW. Okay? So first you're afraid. How many years is it going to take me to save up? Do I have to work overtime? If I work overtime, will I save enough? Once I get it, then I have to worry about protecting it. So, do I have insurance? Do I have a security alarm system, high-tech enough to fool people? All right? All of these things I'm very worried about. So why? Because I have that desire. But our shastras say that the root of abhaya, fearlessness, comes from vairagya, not having any of these desires. What is there to be afraid of when you don't have anything that anyone can take from you? That vairagi, he says, you can take what you want. My happiness is not in that thing. My happiness is in myself. So they have no fear. I saw something really nice today, that there was a monk, and this man came to visit his room. And in his room, the monk only had one small table and a chair and some mat. He said, "That's all you own?" The monk looked at him and he said, "Yes." He said, "You don't have anything else here?" So the monk looked at him and he said, "Do you have any of your things here?" And the man said, "Well, no, I'm just visiting. Why would I have anything here?" Monk said, "I am also just visiting." All of us are only visiting this earth for short time. But we become so attached that we become very fearful when it comes time to detach. There is another good example, that when you go on the airplane, right? People tell you, okay, your seat is 36C. So you sit down in 36C and you're ready for your flight. Now, for the duration of your flight, that's your seat. But once you arrive in Miami or wherever, you have to get up from your seat or not. If you say, "No, it's my seat, I'm taking it with me to Miami," they'll kick you out of the plane. They'll arrest you. Why? Because that seat is only to get you from one place to another. You can't stay there. You can't keep it. It's not for you to keep. We should have the same feeling towards all of our belongings. All the wealth we have, house, car, property, this is our temporary ownership, temporary custodianship. You take care of it for a little while, and then you have to get up from your seat and go. So the wise man, wise buddhi, never gets attached. So he has nothing to fear. That's the point of this bhaya and abhaya. In fact, in Bhaja Govindam, given a nice verse, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam,
Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam,
Govindam Bhaja Mudamate,
Govindam, Bhaja Mudamate,
Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam,
Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam,
Govindam Bhaja Mudamate,
Govindam, Bhaja Mudamate,
Arthamanartham Bhavaya Nityam,
Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam,
Nasti Tata Sukhalesha Satyam,
Govindam, Bhaja Mudamate,
Putradapi Dhana Bhajam Bhitihi,
Bhaja Govindam,
Sarvatra Isha Vihita Ritihi,
Govindam, Bhaja Mudamate,
Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam,
Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam,
Govindam Bhaja Mudamate,
Govindam, Bhaja Mudamate,
Govindam Bhaja Mudamate.
Govindam, Bhaja Mudamate.
So Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya says that all of this artha, wealth, is actually anartha. Anartha means huge calamity, a big problem. It's only a big headache. All of these things we amass, in the end, it makes us, he says here, fear our own child, even we're afraid of them. How many times we would have heard that, oh, the parents would have raised the child and then that child leaves the parents or takes everything that the parents have and goes. And this thing was happening even in, if you see the ancient Persian rulers in India, so many of those kings were killed by their own sons. Their sons became powerful and either locked up their fathers in jail or killed them outright. Why? For their wealth, their kingdom. So, what is that? Is that fear or not? Some of these kings, they grow up, not just kings, all of us, we grow up afraid of our own shadow, our own family. Why? Because of this wealth, because of this attachment, raga. And that, see, the wealth is not the problem. It's our attachment to it that's the problem. And such fear it causes. So, bhaya and abhaya. The next quality that's given is, this is again, sattvic buddhi, knows between bandha and moksha. What is bondage and what is freedom? Gurudev has such a nice saying. See, our concept of what is it to be free and what is it to be a slave, bound, is actually all mixed up. Gurudev used to say, not to do what you feel like doing is freedom. What does that mean? It means that the things that really bind us in life are our attachments to what our senses want and what our mind wants. Think about it. You want to study for your test. Then you procrastinate whole time. It's the night before your test, you cram, and you barely pass, or you get a C, or you fail. And you know, if I had just studied a little harder, I would have passed. And I would have done well also. Who stopped you? Your own mind, right? Your own mind stopped you. You're planning on exercising every day. You even get fancy new shoes and everything. Okay, workout gear. Okay, now they're making nice expensive workout gear. So you have all the gear, you have the shoes, they're there, right there in your closet, and you never use them. It's not someone else, it's your own mind. And in fact, they say all of these fast food and things people eat now, they're addictive. They have so much sugar and fat that your body craves them. So even when you don't want to eat it, you eat it. Why? Because you're a slave to that. So how many of us are bound by how many things without even realizing it? They say the slave that does not know he is bound is truly bound. There's a story that there was once a farmer and he had his buffalo. And he walked all the way to the fields, some miles from his house, so the buffalo can graze. And he realized, I left the rope to tie the buffalo at home. So he thinks, how am I going to get my work done today? And he just sat down and he's just looking so upset. So along came this sadhu. Sadhu saw him and said, what's wrong? He said, I left my rope at home and now I can't get any work done. He said, what do you normally do with that buffalo? He said, well, I take the rope and I tie it around his horns and, I tie it and I let him sit. So Sadhu said, look, just do the same thing you always do. He said, I don't have a rope. He said, no, just pretend you're doing it. So he sits there and he pretends to be fiddling, with the buffalo's head. And then lo and behold, buffalo sits down, quiet. And he gets all his work done, and he's telling the buffalo to get up now, end of the day, and he doesn't want to get up. And then he goes to the sadhu and he said, I don't know what you did to my buffalo. He's not getting up. And I have to go home now. Sadhu said, look, what did you do before? He said, well, I pretended to tie. He said, now pretend to untie. So he come and he pretend to untie. And buffalo got up and left. See, we're like this. We feel bound to our home, to our children, to our opinions, but that tie is only in our mind. And yet we cry over it or we get so upset, but all of our sorrows are just imaginary ropes that we have binding us in our mind. So these things, that knowing the secret of that is truly sattvic understanding. Know that no one else is responsible for my happiness except me. Very interesting. Okay. So now we'll see Rajasic Buddhi. Verse 31. Yaya dharmam adharmam cha
यया धर्ममधर्मं च
karyam cha karyameva cha
कार्यं च कार्यमेव च
ayathavat prajanati
अयतावत् प्रजानाति
buddhi sa partha rajasi
बुद्धि सा पार्थ राजसी
buddhi sa partha rajasi.
बुद्धि सा पार्थ राजसी.
So this Rajasic Buddhi, this word is given, ayathavat. They see things but not quite as it is. Yathavat means as it is. They see it ayathavat, not quite as it's supposed to be. And what do they not see? They don't see dharma, right action, adharma, wrong action, karya and akarya. Karya means punya, meritorious deeds, and akarya, things that will bring some sorrow. So they're a little confused about which one is which. They don't have very clear understanding. And see, sometimes they might have doubt in the wrong thing. So they might doubt the Shastras, or they doubt their own understanding of these different aspects of life. So they might say, you know how everyone has this experience? What career should I go into? What major should I choose? All of these things are big life questions, and we don't know exactly what's the right thing, dharmic thing, what's the adharmic thing. We don't know what's going to fit for see, dharma and adharma also mean our nature. So sometimes we don't know what's correct for our own nature. You think I'm really, really going to like biology, and then it turns out that you hate biology. You really think that you would have enjoyed engineering, and you hate engineering. You don't know. Sometimes you take up something, and that's this Rajasic Buddhi. We're not quite sure what we want. And in fact, everything in our current society is geared towards making us more confused rather than less confused. Why? Because we always feel like we're missing something, or we don't know what we want. And then you see on the big billboard, on the radio, on TV, all of these ads. The ads are saying, if you get this new B-Mobile plan, then you'll be happy. If you get this new phone, you'll be happy. But actually, it's very interesting. No one can sell you something that you don't need, right? If someone has a bottle of headache medicine, you don't need headache medicine unless you have a headache. So all of these advertisement companies, all of these businesses trying to sell you something, first they have to make you feel like you have a headache, and then they give you the thing to cure your headache. So they tell you, oh, everyone else, they have a shade over their house. Everyone but you. Everyone else is so happy. Everyone but you. Everyone else has this B-Mobile plan. They're so happy. You're such a fool. Why don't you get it also? Then you'll also be happy. And we fall for it every time. So this Rajasic Buddhi is not quite certain. They tend to waver. So that's the hallmark of that kind of understanding. Okay. Then the next verse is Tamasic Buddhi, verse 32. Adharmam dharmam itiya
Adharmam dharmamiti ya
manyate tamasavrita
manyate tamasavrita
sarvathan viparitamscha
sarvathan viparitamscha
buddhissa partha tamasi
buddhisa partha tamasi
buddhissa partha tamasi.
buddhisa partha tamasi.
Okay, this is very funny. One with tamasic buddhi, they're not confused. They're very certain. They're just certain about the wrong thing entirely. So back in the old days, in Western medicine, they used to do all kind of crazy things, but they were certain that it worked. So they were certain that if they put a leech on your body to drink out all the blood, that would make you more healthy. And then, this is kind of gross, but I read that they used to get the slime from snails. You know how snails have a little slime? And they used to use it to cure your cough. So people used to drink it to cure their cough. So what? Completely some weird wrong thing. So what is it given here? They don't know about dharma and adharma also. Actually, it says viparitamscha. Viparita means exact opposite. So they take dharma to be adharma and they take adharma to be dharma. So there was a teacher who once asked the students, what did you learn from the story of Lord Krishna? Lord Krishna, you know the whole story. And the boy said, I learned that it's okay to kill your uncle. That's what I learned. That's wrong. That's not what you're supposed to be learning from that story. So he says, no, that means I can kill my uncle. Oops. So that's this kind of wrong understanding. In fact, Arjuna had this very same problem. He's talking to Bhagavan Shri Krishna and says, look, the right thing for me to do is to leave this war and go to the mountains. But Bhagavan Shri Krishna says, no, that's not dharma, that's adharma. And then he says, the right thing for me to do is to go become sannyasi, that's dharma. He says, no, that's adharma. If you leave your duty to do something else, you've gotten those two mixed up. It's not that he's confused. At first he was completely in the opposite direction. And then when Bhagavan talked to him, some doubt started to arise. Okay, maybe there's some other way. But first he was completely opposite. So this is tamasic buddhi. You know, there's a lot of things where we know that it's the wrong thing, or we see something that's wrong, but we just put some other label on it to make it look nicer than it is. So some people, they don't call it political corruption or a bribe, they call it cooperation. Okay, they call it political contribution. But it's not a contribution, it's really a bribe. They say if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. If it works like a bribe and it looks like a bribe, it's probably a bribe, even though they call it something else. So these kind of things, a lot of times, we also are victims of this. Not victims, we actually perpetrate this because we hide our cowardice behind, oh, I'm just keeping the peace. So someone doing something wrong, I'm not going to say anything to keep the peace. But really, I'm just being a coward. Or someone had once asked our Swamiji, not our Swamiji, different Swamiji, why is it that bad things happen to good people? And he said, it's because good people are not good. He said, look, if you grew up having a lot of, nice house, you had enough money to grow up with, and you never committed a crime, you want a plaque for that? You want some certificate for that? You only are good because you never were tempted to do anything wrong. We're just complacent. We're not good, we're complacent. So we shouldn't be like that. We shouldn't fool ourselves. We should stand up for dharma, stand up for the right thing, not be scared of what other people will think. You know, we're scared of other people, but we call it, oh, I'm just a very peaceful person, okay? I don't like to get involved in these things. So I just hide. Shouldn't be like that. It says, Sarvan arthan viparitan cha. So it says, they see everything as opposite. So sometimes they'll even doubt the guru, the teacher. You see, they'll say, look, my father said this, my mother said this, so who are you to tell me any different? They say this to the guru also. Now listen, when you go to the doctor and you have some weird rash, and the doctor says, okay, for this rash, this is the prescription. Get this and put it on. You listen, why? Because the doctor has had training. He's the expert. So he says, put this on twice a day, you put it on twice a day. Guru is also expert. They sat and they studied and they suffered and they reflected on all of these ideas. And now they're telling you, they're giving you some advice. If you don't take it, it means that you have very wrong understanding. Oh, my father said this. Your father spent, his whole life studying Shastras? I'm not saying anything about anyone's father, I'm just saying that, oh, my uncle said this. Okay, in my family we've always done this. But sometimes we should take advice from the expert. I'm not saying just anyone, someone who's proven their nobility, their goodness. So that tamasic buddhi. Okay. Dhriti. Oh, we did that one. Okay. So, what's the other point I wanted to make? Satvik, yeah, Satvik Dhriti, right? This is verse 33. Dhritya yaya dharayate
Vrityayaya dharayate
mana pranendriya kriyaha yogena vyabhicharinya
Yogena vicharinya
Dhriti sa partha satviki
Dhriti sa partha satviki
yaya tu dharma kamarthan
Yaya tu dharmaka
Dhritya dharayate Arjuna
Dhritya dharayate Arjuna
prasangena phalakankshi
Prasangena phalakankshi
Dhriti sa partha rajasi
Dhriti sa partha rajasi
Dhriti sa partha rajasi
Dhriti sa partha rajasi.
Okay, so now what is Dhriti? Satvik Dhriti, fortitude, being able to hold on. It says, Yaya Dhritya avyabhicharinya mana prana indriya kriyaha dharayate. That capability of being unwavering, firm in what? Controlling our mind, our senses, the functions of our body, and all of their activities. When we can control these, it means we have Satvik Dhriti. That means if I want to concentrate on something, I have the power to concentrate. I have the power to put my energy where I want it to go, in the right direction, good direction. See, a lot of times we start off doing something good. Maybe we get our workout clothes and then we put them on and we run every morning for 1 week. Then after 1 week, 3 days, it goes back in the closet, you don't see it for another year. Why? That dhriti, that ability to control. See, body wants to sit on the couch and watch TV, right? But dhriti is the one that pushes us to go and exercise. So that dhriti, if you're able to hold on, that's called Satvik Dhriti. Or you say, look, I'm not going to look at my WhatsApp for 1 hour while I study. It's been 5 minutes, you itch. 10 minutes, it gets worse. 10.5 minutes. And then you say, look, there might be an emergency. I should probably check. Okay? There might be some very pressing emergency. There's never any emergency. Okay? But why? That mind, it wants to look at that phone. But I don't have any control, any dhiti to be able to stop myself. So sattvic dhiti is one that can hold. And notice that all these aspects of control, dharayate means to hold or control. All aspects of our control are controlling my own mind and indriyas and prana, not somebody else's mind or body. A lot of people want to control the other person and have no self-control themselves. So this is advice for us, not for us to give advice to someone else. Oh, you could really use some sattvic dhiti. If only, you could just work on your sattvic dhiti a little bit. It's not for us to tell other people. It's for us to do for ourselves. Very nice. And rajasic dhiti now. Rajasic person has a lot of dhiti, but they have it for the maybe different reasons. So it says here, dharma kamartha. They do it because they even do dharmic things, like working hard at their job, but they do it because they want some benefit from that. So I do a lot of puja and stuff, but so that everyone in my family will have good health, so I'll get a lot of money. Maybe Lakshmi Ma will bless me with a bonus this year. Lakshmi Ma bonus, it will come in the mail, right? So I do the right thing. I do some dharmic action, meritorious deed, but I'm doing it because I want some benefit from it. Because they believe they'll go to heaven. And remember, heaven here could also mean going to Miami, right? That could be your heaven. I want to go to Miami once I get my paycheck. So you're doing it. You have a lot of perseverance in your work, but you're doing it to get something. Phalakankshi, that means you're doing it for some desire. Prasangena, very, very ambitious also. See, some kids, they'll say, I can't concentrate, I can't do it, it's hard to study. But you put them in front of a TV, and they'll concentrate on that thing. They can tell you all the names of the Pokemon, they can sing their favorite, television theme song. But you ask them, what did you learn in biology class? And they'll look at you like you're speaking a foreign language. Why? Because they have dhriti, but in some other thing. They have concentration, but not for the right thing. So, that's one aspect. Why is it that this rajasic quality leads us to have this kind of worldly benefit? We're only looking for worldly benefit. Why is that? It's because, it's very interesting, the rajasic mind, remember, it's the one that's very active. So it's always looking for some activity-based benefit. Meaning that people with this rajasic dhriti, they only are concerned about what they can see, what's tangible. So when you work hard, you get some tangible benefit, something you can hold, something you can taste, feel. But spiritual pursuit, sattvic pursuit, is not something that you can feel with your senses. It's some satisfaction of the spirit. So rajasic mind is always going to go towards something tangible, something they can hold, something obvious, worldly enjoyment, worldly benefit. But we have to remember, spirituality, our spiritual pursuit, gives us something so much more beyond anything we can just hold. It's some deep satisfaction, some deep peace that we get. But if we're only concerned with what's the new thing, what's the fancy thing, then we're always running after that. We'll put forth all our efforts, all our dhriti in that direction. Right? Some people work very hard, but they'll never come to a satsang. Right? They'll say, why are you going there? I feel it's like some kind of cult. I don't think I want to go. I think I'll just stay home and, work on my tax returns, or I don't know what people do. But they're only concerned with their office, what they can see. But there's more to life than what we can see. But that's having that sattvic understanding. So, final one now, this is funny, is tamasic driti. Yaya swapnam bhayam shokam vishadam madameva cha na vimunchati durmedha dhriti sa partha tamasi dhriti sa partha tamasi. So some words given for this tamasic driti is swapna. They're very attached to swapna. Swapna means dreaming. Why didn't they use nidra? Nidra means sleep. But they gave swapna. Very cool. It's because swapna can be literal sleep. Like you're sleeping in your bed and you love to sleep. Tamasic people love to sleep. They don't want to get up from bed. Okay? Some people are like that. I had this friend who she could sleep until 1 in the afternoon. Then she'd be awake for a few hours, and then 10:30 she's out like a light again. I don't know how. It was scary. But anyway, that was when she was on break from school. She's actually very smart. Okay? But anyway, some people have that capacity to just sleep. But this word swapna is given because swapna means dream. So you dream in your sleep, but you can also dream while you're awake. So tamasic person is just dreaming their life away. So they're dreaming their life away behind some TV, some other pursuit, liming, hanging out, just wasting time. They're in that dream state even while they're awake. See how nice swapna is given. They think that there's nothing to life other than eating, sleeping, and being merry. Eat, sleep, drink, and be merry. It's like a dream only. They're asleep to any spiritual truth. So, see swapna. Also, they're bhaya. They're always afraid of something. You can't ever push them out of their comfort zone. Shoka, vishada. They're always sorrowful, grieving over something, even if it's not anything important. Someone scratched my car, I'm going to cry about it for 2 weeks. Or one whole life they cry sometimes. Mada, vanity. They don't know anything. They think they know so much. Durmedha. That means distorted thinking. So you're not very smart, but you think you're very smart. You're not very good looking, you think you're the most good looking. Some people are like this. They have durmedha. They understanding is somehow mixed up. All of this, why is driti given? Because not only do they have these qualities, but they hold on tight to those qualities. You tell them, no, you're not as smart as you think. They say, no, I'm definitely as smart as I think. You're mistaken. Right? They hold on, driti. Now, the next step is going to be Bhagavan explaining everything that we hold on to, everything that we understand, everything we pursue in life is for what? For happiness only. Everything we want, everything we do is for that happiness. Happiness also is of sattva, rajas, and tamas. But that we will see tomorrow.